다 매일은 도학자를 가보시라레스 레데이나야 매일은 다 소내요레스 매일은 또 유에상 근데 저 처럼 몰라 매일은 도학 주주와 계셔버레스 요가도 와서나 뭐그 좀 수진송 정도도 레데야 송거이나 처럼 몰라 매일 마다 사이 대상도 보여요레스.
So at this very moment, we have a human basis. It's very difficult to achieve this human basis, and we have so many opportunities because of it. It says that we have leisure and opportunity at this point that is very difficult to achieve and very easily lost. So if we wish to have more bases like this in our future lives, if we wish to have birth in the human realms again and have this human basis and rebirth in the demigods and gods realm, then it's necessary for us during this lifetime to engage in the causes and conditions for the arisal of those bases in our future lives. So according to the Buddha said that if we were to engage in the ethics that abandons the 10 non-virtuous activities and go for refuge to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, while acknowledging any negativities we've engaged in that are not advisable, that we would be able to have this basis again, and that we would be able to have rebirth in the higher realms. So we should take advantage of this human basis of leisure and opportunity and utilize it to achieve, at least at the lowest level, our current status, so that we can continue to practice the Dharma, so that we will eventually be able to end the suffering of cyclic existence by practicing the teachings that are shared in common with beings of medium capacity, and which are the 3 highest higher trainings. And then if we are able to practice those, in dependence upon those, we couple those with bodhicitta and practice the 6 perfections, and we can become a Buddha. So Lama Tsongkhapa and many of the great masters, and Lord Atisha, when he came to Tibet, was able to summarize the teachings into 3 categories. And those 3 categories were for 3 specific results the practitioners desired. So these were called then the teachings for beings of 3 capacities. The first category of teachings, as Rinpoche mentioned, was for a practitioner who wished to achieve what we have now or better in the realms of cyclic existence, by going for refuge, knowing karma and its results, abandoning the 10 non-virtuous activities, acknowledging downfalls, and one could achieve that result. By coupling that with the 3 highest higher trainings, we move to the teachings shared in common with beings of medium capacity, and these are the teachings that Lord Atisha said would fall into the category of what Buddha said would be necessary to achieve an individual liberation and abandonment of the afflictive obstructions, but one would still have the obstructions to omniscience and not be a Buddha. So that practitioner who wants to have the complete thing done, wants to become a complete Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings, practices the teachings shared in common with beings of small and medium capacity, then becomes a bodhisattva by generating bodhicitta, practicing the 6 perfections. And then the union of method and wisdom is what disintegrates and obliviates all of the obstructions to omniscience as one goes through the bodhisattva, the grounds, with the merit being gained through the insight, with the insight of wisdom and understanding of the emptiness of action, agent, and object simultaneously. So we'll start with stanza 490.
Da le pont la pemba shaguna then the church shevaju the chune da jinde chuje da no go jinde shiro jindo kebate sanshi shanla udemba pebe pemba awala kaji dange tosheba then teme jujang sun geshe then tada ta ke cheni dudu chembazu chuji yije chujin then 묘무시 싫어진 대다 개네 최대나 최지 체지 그바주 르는 편송 수바데 그바이네 초토주로 대다 세제 잠하신 대유가주 예카와 최대 체도 sömende Jean Lepa ayudumande ledu ala ne ton an jeba denshi senjwa goba meji tamari yume watan tide de 하와냐 나와 냐와 대바당 현지 지진 지대당 자수진도 사바당 싫어진도 템바도 야바군레 나도신 외den군지 대조바 타지 영어 신조당 타지 체바 예도도 주라 가지라 타바코나 저케테 세제제라 제제바 페반되베 템발라 다다 제나 야타버 두비장주 줄레도 줄레 요레 J'avais de savoir, dans ces saisons, sans béré, tu dis que Lama Nego Chudan, tu dis Chadoumé. Sanatane, tu joie me va, j'ai deux jetant, Pomba Chuba, Benji. 초당 초미 요zon도와당 다주 요zon享受시든 예완나那些大度假不了什么去期望享受什么学不了就把楼的那把我
Good stuff. So that that concludes the text. So those who feel a dearness for the practices have in fact a dearness for their body. If dearness for the body helps it, the practices will do just that. Therefore, pay heed to the practices you do to yourself. Pay heed to achievement as you do to the practices. Pay heed to wisdom as you do to achievement. Pay heed to the wise as you do to wisdom. Those who have qualms that it would be bad for themselves if they relied on one who has purity, love, and intelligence, as well as helpful and appropriate speech, cause their own interests to be destroyed. You should know in brief the qualifications of spiritual guides. If you are taught by those knowing contentment and having compassion and ethics, as well as wisdom that can drive out your afflictive emotions, you should realize that what they teach and respect them. You will attain the supreme achievement by following this excellent system. Speak the truth, speak gently to sentient beings, be of pleasant nature, compelling, be politic, do not wish to defame, be independent and speak well, be well-disciplined, contained, generous, magnificent, of peaceful mind, not excitable, not procrastinating, not deceitful, but amiable. Be gentle like a full moon, be lustrous like the sun in autumn, be deep like the ocean, be firm like Mount Meru. Freed from all defects and adorned with all good qualities, become a sustenance for all sentient beings and become omniscient. These doctrines were not just taught only for monarchs, but were taught with a wish to help other sentient beings as befits them. O king, it would be right for you each day to think about this advice so that you and others may achieve complete and perfect enlightenment. For the sake of enlightenment, aspirants should always apply themselves to ethics, supreme respect for teachers, patience, non-jealousy, non-miserliness, endowment with the wealth of altruism without hope for reward, helping the destitute, remaining the supreme people, leaving the non-supreme, and thoroughly maintaining the doctrine. Tu Chenrezig Rinpoche, the Shere Yabudu, the Ne, the Chiran, the Deslo, the Shiloka Kashe, Tambo, Chishina Denda Yabudu, Tambo. So Rinpoche is just going to read for auspicious reasons a few of the beginning stanzas of the text.
Kanshir Maba Tutu ne Rejig Naba Lebahu Till Talan Dawat Naba Leba Taban Ti Gruba Duduna Chu Chun Tedan Shirogo Tejen Yishir Chulaten Shiro Dancer Yadari. This is two Shiro de Tedan Hundu Tebayin, Tedan Shidan, Jebatan, Mopikanji, Chumanda. Tedan Teba Jen Shesha, never Lebi Nujuyin.
Okay, Disha. So just for auspicious reasons, so the teaching never ends. Rinpoche restarted the teaching, and we'll leave it there for another time in another place. Homage to the Buddhas, all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. I bow down to the omniscient, freed from all defects, adorned with all good qualities, the sole friend of all beings. O King, I will explain practices solely virtuous to generate in you the doctrine, for the practices will be established in a vessel of the excellent doctrine. In one who first practices high status, definite goodness arises later. For having attained high status, one comes gradually to definite goodness. High status is considered to be happiness. Definite goodness is liberation. The quintessence of their means, in brief, is briefly faith and wisdom. Due to having faith, one relies on the practices. Due to having wisdom, one truly knows. Of these two, wisdom is chief, faith is its prerequisite. One who does not neglect the practices through desire, hatred, fear, or bewilderment is known as one with faith, a superior vessel for definite goodness. So we'll end there, and maybe we have questions. No prostrations at the end of this teaching. How do I deal with self-hatred? So the question is, how do I deal with self-hatred? Rinpoche, in Mei Chi, the kon, the sem kali kabudu, the kon sem, the nga nugure, nga shera ducha yin, the nga gagamare, nga sampa, nga ducha yin. Then Nepo gare Rinpoche. Gangen sena the nga jedang yana. Nepo gare.
Maybe that to a Tawachi Bata, Kejoy but the Shevores. This is on the Dolores.
So it's first important to understand how important this human basis is. And if you understand how important this human basis is and why, then that will serve to as an antidote for self-hatred. 네네, 예뻐 젠더 그래.
아,
통렌, 오란 통렌. So you can do a giving and taking meditation where you can imagine yourself and that you're taking on the suffering that you have and giving yourself all of the happiness that there can be. And then you can do that gradually if you learn the giving and taking Tonlen practice for other sentient beings, and then meditating upon emptiness and dependent origination. So recognizing the opportunity you have with this human basis, and then what do you do if you have this human basis? Well, the Dharma shows us what we can do and gives us guides and gives us antidotes to each of the afflictions. If we have hatred, meditation upon love, we are a sentient being. So if we're meditating upon love and wanting sentient beings to have happiness and the causes of happiness, we have to understand that we are a sentient being. So we wish that we have happiness and the causes of happiness. So that's the misunderstanding. We're not trying to just have this life of suffering, just taking it all on for everyone. We are also sentient beings, and we are desiring to have happiness. And that's why we're practicing Buddhism. That's why we want to become a Buddha, because we want to stop being unhappy. So the human condition is a state of suffering of varying levels. And to think that one is so unique is the real issue. The real issue is not recognizing that this human basis is plagued with suffering. And if you have it, it's a correct sign to show you that you have the suffering of change, the pervasive compounded suffering, and the suffering of suffering, unless you're an emanation. And then you don't have suffering at all, you're always happy, and you're just pretending that you don't. So that's not the people we're talking about right now. We're talking about everybody that we walk around and look at. They are all walking around with a vibration of suffering that we don't understand. We can only understand our own minds. So when we cling to our own minds and we think that we're so unique and we are the only ones who have and could have that level of suffering, we begin to then react because of that improper mental conduct mentally towards ourselves negatively. And we begin to think we are the worst. We think that we hate ourselves because no one could understand how bad it is for us. I. The grasping at the true establishment of I drives that whole train, but we sometimes have to be a little bit more gentler on ourselves and apply subtler antidotes, such as love and compassion. And if we have attachment to self and we have pride, understanding that we are going to die and it could be in a moment, understanding that all of the great scholars have passed away, understanding there are volumes of information that we don't understand, and then that kind of gets our pride down. If we have attachment to flesh and to others, we start to understand the impurity and the true reality of the things that we're looking at, and the actual dirtiness of the things that we're finding pure. So there's antidotes throughout the teachings to all of these negativities, but what drives our whole screwed up perception of everything, including our perception of ourselves, is the grasping at true establishment. And the king of reasons, it is said, to understand emptiness is dependent origination. Things are not truly established because they dependently originate. The subject form is emptiness because it dependently originates. So you have Chuchen Sewadak. You say that the subject form is empty because it dependently originates. Therefore, it's not truly established. It's not inherently existent. So we start there and we say the subject I is not truly existent because it dependently originates. So all of these thoughts and this improper mental conduct is forming our perception of I, and it's all wrong. So we need to put some wisdom in there and couple it with some compassion for ourselves and love. That's my Western idea. Oh, we're popping questions now. Okay, how do we cultivate love and forgiveness for our enemies? Rinpoche, Natsu Da Yana. Dene Shamba Dan Ninji Dan Zupa Kandregon Gangesina de Khensur Natsu Dra Kali Kabudu. Less so.
So
it's important for us to come to this recognition that our enemies are our mothers. And we would wish for our mothers to have happiness and the causes of happiness, and to be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. There's the Dane Pame Songong Pentogdo. So one meditation to get us to that point is trying to achieve equanimity. And that's an equal desire to benefit our friends, enemies, and neutrals. It's so easy to want to benefit our friends. And then when we say neutrals, because we can just picture them as a bunch of crowds and masses, it's easy to do that. But when we get to our enemies, it stirs up a lot of emotion. Because of the proximity of our mind to that, and our attachment to that person. So we have to recognize that all sentient beings want to have happiness and the causes of happiness. No sentient being wants to have suffering. Everyone is going about their day to try to achieve the goal of being happy. Now, we're all driven by ignorance, so we're all doing it wrong unless we're being driven by the Dharma. And I know that I'm most of the time being driven by Jeff, and that is not the Jeff that's studying the Dharma, it's the Jeff that thinks he's Jeff all the time and will always be. So I am seeking happiness all day, and I do certain things that I think will make me happy. And if they aren't the Dharma, then they ultimately will not. So our enemies are just engaging in that same day, and they've just crossed our life trying to be happy, just like we've crossed others' lives trying to be happy and been misunderstood. So if we can get to a place where we start to have this equal understanding that everyone wants happiness and doesn't want suffering, and then we get to a place where, wow, I wish I could be of equal benefit to those types of beings, then we can get to that place where we say, well, they're all my mother, and then really start to get motivated to help. So that's the summary of how we could do it. We have another question. So Tasha Lake, and balanced gratitude for Rinpoche's guidance through medical crisis. In addition to White Tara medicine, Buddha practices, does Rinpoche have other recommendations for practices to make the best ongoing devotion and growth with renewed help? The Rinpoche, the Chan, the Natsa Yana, the Nutra Yana, Chan Dakpash, the Mela Yakudu, Droma Yakudu, Yine, Nyalan Jenda Gari Pentogudu, Natsa Yana. So it's very important for you to meditate on impermanence, meditate upon emptiness, meditate upon renunciation. So meditating upon, so it would be not, you would see that, all of the suffering and the impermanence, and would want to definitely get out, and you would recognize that that was all empty. So that's how you would kind of do that. You could do the practice in a different way. You could maybe just see, the suffering of suffering. You broke your arm and don't like that, and then recognize that, things are, that everything's impermanent and suffering, and want to emerge from it, and then recognize that which you wish to emerge from, and that where you will go to, liberation, is empty, as well as emptiness is empty. So just meditation upon the meditation upon those ideas. The doni gon, niepa jongwagon, senche gon. So meditating upon impermanence, meditating upon renunciation, meditating upon emptiness, meditating upon bodhicitta. So these are the things that are beneficial. Hey, Ted, are you there? Do we have a board meeting right after this, I believe? Correct?
Yeah, we do.
Ted, you're Ted, you're okay. And the cap's hanging on really well, Ted. I checked it this morning. So thank you. All right, so any more questions? It doesn't look like we have any more. Lacha agenda yurube, and then let's one on the yurube.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll do the concluding prayers and the two Chenrezig Rinpoche, the Umar Rinchen Chewa Sonchen Be Abudu, then Tering Tama Yomare, Natsu Tanda, Jema, Dan Jewa Shema, Natsu Umar Rinchen Chewa, Cheonam.
Yeah.
So I said to Rinpoche, this isn't the end of the teaching on the precious garland. I asked if he could teach it again in this life and in all of our lifetimes in the future. May we receive this teaching of the precious garland from him. The Shanchu Malena, the Natsu, the Umar Rinchen Chewa Chirang, Natsu Chirana. I said, if we have not achieved enlightenment, please teach us this text in our future lives. Ted Dakpar Yure Jalo. Okay. He said, oh, Ted's here. I said, Ted's always in the background there. Okay, concluding mandala offering, dedication prayer. And just remember, nobody make prostrations. It's a Tibetan inauspicious thing. At the last teaching, you don't make a prostration because it says that it's over in some way. So the same reason that we started the teaching again, we just want it to always be continuing for the rest of our lives, not life. And if we recognize that part, we're doing this for the rest of our lives, the grasping at what's going on today starts to become less because we realize that what we should be doing today isn't the improper mental conduct that we're allowing to go on. So if we can apply antidote after antidote after antidote, Tisha has said that nothing becomes more difficult through repetition or something like that. So we just need to use that word gom in Tibetan, which says meditation that we translate it as. But if you look at it, it just says again and again, familiarize. Thinking about something again and again, familiarizing. Either one of those is fine, again and again, or familiarize. So meditation is a fancy word, but really you're just trying to think about something again and again till you know it, till it replaces the thing that you're trying to get out with the good thing. So you think about love again and again and again, it gets rid of anger. It replaces that anger with love because love is the antidote to anger. And that's how meditation works. It's not some mystical journey through the mountaintops of Shambhala. It can be and will be, but first we have to start with like trying not to be mad as much. You know, bodhisattvas will give their eyes, but we should start by giving vegetables to people. Okay. The fundamental ground is scented with incense and strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the four continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this as a Buddha land and offer it. May all sentient beings enjoy this pure realm. I dedicate whatever virtues I have collected for the benefit of the teachings and of all sentient beings, and in particular for the essential teachings of Venerable Losang Drapa to shine forever. I send forth this jeweled mandala to you, precious Guru. I dedicate all this virtue to emulate the knowledge of the hero Manjushri and likewise Samantabhadra as well. With whatever dedication is praised as supreme by all the conquerors who traverse the 3 times, I also dedicate all my roots of virtue for the sake of auspicious deeds. In that pure land surrounded by snowy mountains, you are the source of all benefit and happiness, all-powerful Avalokiteshvara, attendant Jatso, may you stay until samsara's end. I pray for the long life of the precious Khensur Wandak, upholder of scriptural and realizational doctrines, spiritual friend who trained extensively in the 5 great philosophical texts with exceptional wisdom and perseverance. Tuji Rinpoche Gutsi Shapi Denona. And please make aspirational Paris. May His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama Tenzin Gyatso remain with us. Please make aspirations. Jason, the Jao Rinpoche Beja Mambo Tridu. He said that His Holiness may see this. Okay, so let's end here, and then Ted, we just sign back in. How's it work? Like 10 minutes?
Just stay on.
Just stay on. Okay, just give me a minute. I'll just bring the thing out in the other room. That's easy. Decent. So anybody who is not on the board, now just sign off And we'll wait about 5 minutes. I just need to get a little situated, Ted. Is that good with everybody on the board? And then not even 5 minutes. Just give me 2 minutes.
Karma Ju nghe không nghe?
We can do it in here.